Hello. Hello, hello, hello. We are so back. Well, I don't know if we're back regularly, but we're we're back for an update. And I wanted to because it's been months and months and months. That's kind of my typical cadence now. I wanted to give an update of where I'm at in work, where I'm going. You guys know that if you've stuck with me for a while, you know that I'm currently transitioning careers to become a therapist, and that involves a lot of schooling. It becomes 2 to 3 years essentially, and I just started in January of this year. So we're halfway through the first year. So we're 1/6 of the way, 1/6 of the way through. And we got a long time, so we're kind of in this in-between period, and, things aren't remaining constant, like, the plan keeps evolving, because of school timelines, and there's, multiple options, so I kinda wanted to walk through a little bit of where I'm at, how I've been changing, as a result of being able to kind of, like, see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but, maybe there's a very faint glow, and I'm like, I know there's an end out there, and now it's finally starting to kind of take a shape. So I think that's kind of where I'm at, and it's a tricky kind of place to be. So we're gonna cover that, and then I really want to talk about broader systemic issues around my journey as a case study, but again, I want to get into like the broader kind of place in which my journey sits because I know I'm like within the system itself, quote unquote, one of the lucky ones. And I don't want to denounce that at all, but I want to connect it to things that I'm seeing in the world. Um, Actually, related to a lot of people are now kind of taking this fire path that are in the corporate world or taking a coast fi kind of path like I am. And I want to talk about that and talk about why it's honestly not very sustainable. And some great commentary I've been seeing in the ether about fire movement and all of its offshoots. So I want to talk through that as well. So, again, I'll start with myself and broaden out because if you're here, this channel has really been dedicated to my story as a case study and has really been like therapy for myself. So I don't necessarily want to change that style off the bat, but yeah. So I believe the last time I posted, I'm actually posting like podcasts. So on Spotify, which is should be linked. I'll link it again if it's not linked. It's confusing. I have two basically with the same name. One is Coast-Fi Chronicles Part-Time Pivot. The other is Part-Time Pivot Coast-Fi Chronicles. And that's because one podcast was made before Spotify offered free podcasts. And now that podcasts are free through Spotify, I obviously ditched the monthly fee I was paying for the other one and started this one. So anyway, hopefully this actually makes the cut. I've filmed stuff like this a couple times and it hasn't made the cut. But anyway, now that we're 3.5 minutes in, let's actually get to the content. So I am, again, 6 months into a 2 to 3 year journey of school and working while I'm in school. And where I'm at financially, my net worth is hovering, really just under $300,000, which is crazy, by the way. Like it is crazy that I'm 29% uh, a millionaire. So to being a millionaire. um, uh, which again, like a part of my brain that was so obsessed with finances in the past, I'm like kind of getting off to that. And then another part of me is like, I know that this is kind of an arbitrary number because it actually doesn't change. It doesn't change my life. If I was a millionaire today, I still have too long of a way to go to retirement. Like I still have 30 years of my life before I could like reasonably cash out. Even if I had $1 million today, I'm 30 or I'm going to be 30 in a couple months. You kind of need $1 million like per decade of your life at this point. So that would only get me like uh I don't know. Well, maybe it's probably a little bit longer than a decade. It's probably like 13 to 14 years, but still That would only get me to probably like 45, if we're just talking like cash. And obviously it's invested, so it's not a one to one. But um, yeah, like all the point being, it wouldn't necessarily change my life as it is now. And so anyway, that actually gets kind of at the broader point that I'm trying to make. So we'll circle back to that thought, but um anyway, so I need to change careers, right? The point is I am choosing this kind of coast fire lifestyle because I realistically can't hit fire. I make 100 and net probably, or gross, not net. Gross, I make, between 130 and $140,000 per year, and that is insane income. I have good health insurance. I have a full suite of benefits, and I'm on a pension track. And um, even with all of that, the point is, I would not be able to like reasonably achieve financial independence until I was like well into my 40s at the earliest, and it's because investment returns take time. If you're not a wizard and you're not making big bets and winning big on those bets, making a lot in investment returns in a safe way takes decades. And that's just the matter of the math. I hate, my current career. I really do. I realize it's not the worst thing in the world. My specific situation isn't the worst thing in the world right now. And I want to make that clear. I have a boss who's pretty hands off. While I hate what I do now, there are aspects of it that are still interesting to me, and I generally can kind of get away with not doing a ton of work. That being said, I hate the institution of what I do. It's marketing. It feels very soulless to me. The bright side is I do it for an organization that at least isn't a total piece of shit. They are a nonprofit, and I think a lot of nonprofits are corrupt, this one included. Um, and I do think they really just support the whole institution of capitalism. Again, I'll try and wait to get to the to the bigger part in a second, but that kind of broader context just really annoys me. And I understand there's no way to really make money ethically under capitalism. There's really just not. But I'm tired of living, at the very least, in these structures where I don't have, or these organizations that don't offer me much freedom in the way that I design my day and live my life. And like, it really takes away the choice that I have to deliver, value in this corrupt system, in the way that I see fit. Like, that is really taken away from me. So it's like, if I'm going to prop up capitalism, I at least want to do it in my way, babes. Like, that's where we're at. So yeah, I am obviously on the path to doing that, and financially, where the numbers net out, I have $225,000 invested in retirement. 190, or yeah, actually almost, yeah, just under 200,000 of that is locked into retirement accounts. That in of itself is going to be what, like, around $1.6 million by the time I retire. That is not. I mean, that is already inflation adjusted, so realistically, it's going to look probably more around like 3 million, but 3 to 4 million. But it's going to feel like 1.6 now, which is enough in of itself to retire. Like, I have hit Coast Fi. I won't cover that concept because I've talked about it a lot. But the point is, I don't need to invest for retirement anymore if I don't want to, which I have stopped, except for my 401k match. I'm not investing anymore in my Roth. I mean, I stopped investing this year after I already maxed out my Roth. So to be fair, there hasn't been a year yet where I haven't invested in my Roth, but the plan is really just to do my basic 401k match. And the rest of what I'm doing with my savings is just paying for my school tuition, and the choice now that I will get into of quitting my job halfway through schooling and using that money as a sabbatical fund, Uh, or staying my last true year, receiving my pension and essentially sitting on an extra $30 to $40,000 cushion, which can help me in my initial years as a therapist where I'm not going to be making much money. Um, and again, this is a great problem to have. I don't want it to sound like I am suffering. I believe we are all suffering. I believe I am suffering probably one of the least in this society, in this structure. So I just want to acknowledge that. I'm also going to take a little carbonated water break. Um, that being said, I am struggling with this decision because again, I'm caught in this in between. And I don't want to say I'm not being active. Like I am being active. I'm in school. I'm doing the work to build the bridge into my next life in which I'll be more free. Um but I am kind of caught in this, weird in between moment, and the part of me that clings to the financial principles that I've developed over the past decade of my life. I've really been doing this life ever since I was graduated from college. I mean, well, 1 year. So ever since I was 22, turning 30 this year. So it's been 9 years cuz it was all of when I was 22. So you include that. It's not just 30 minus 28. It's that extra year. So it's been 9 years like of my life. Uh where I've been saving as much as I can, and making sure that I'm planning like all for the future. And so a part of me is like, stay that extra year. Stay that extra year, uh, you know, um, build up an extra $40,000 worth of cushion so that your first 2 years as a therapist, I will probably, I'm going to be taking like a 66% pay cut. Pretty sure. Um, because again, I make close to $140,000 a year. I imagine I'm not going to be making more than $50,000 as a baby therapist, because the way the system is structured, sometimes your supervision takes a cut of your pay, and then sometimes supervision is built into whatever agency or private practice or group practice that you go to. But typically, you know, where you go, a cut of your pay, if you're doing a private practice or a group practice, a cut of your pay goes to the business, the institution that you're working for. So, and then in exchange, they do like the admin stuff. So you're still responsible for your own notes for your clients, which the point of this video is not to explain how the structure of therapy works. I can, if that's interesting, at a later point, but I'm responsible for documenting my stuff and like making my schedule. But in terms of like the insurance part, I believe that is taken care of. And some of the other admin tasks are taken care of by the organization. So, um, and I believe payment, I'm not totally sure, but I believe so, because you can be, yeah, like W-2 through your through the group or whatever. So, but the thing is, they take a shitload of your pay. So, all of that to say, I would have to do that for 2 to 3 years before I could become fully licensed. At which point, once I am fully licensed, I can open my own practice, and none of that money is being cut anymore. The trade-off is that money will go to my own admin costs. So it'll go to owning my own EHR system, which is required. And that is like going likely to be like a tech company, which is going to take a cut of my pay. So it's like, but like I've seen it's usually like $100 a month. So it's not crazy, right? Like that's the equivalent of like one session as a fully licensed person running their own practice. It's probably going to be the equivalent of like one session. It'll be like probably 2 to 3 sessions when I'm a baby therapist. But again, I won't be incurring that cost. So all of that is to say, my own goal is to run my own private practice, but I'm not going to have that luxury up front, and I'm not going to make nearly as much. So those first 2 to 3 years, uh, I'm going to be acting as if I'm fresh out of college, working my $37,000 a year job, except it's going to be a little bit higher because of inflation over the past decade. But yeah, that like 50 grand or whatever I make is going to feel super tight, probably like it did when I first had a job. And also, the pay isn't as stable, right? Like, my pay is going to depend on the clients that I see. And I'm also, I think, going to need to get my own health insurance. Some of the companies give you health insurance. If I work for the state, for example, I'll get health insurance. But typically, if you work for the state or an agency, the way it works is you're a salaried employee. And because you're salaried, they give you as many fucking clients as they can, and you burn out within a year or two. And you don't have control over your schedule or the people that you see. And I do not want that. That is literally the antithesis of the point of getting into this career. So I might end up like that at first, just to get my hours. I would get my hours really fast, but then I would burn out of the career probably. So it's like that's literally the antithesis of the point. So I'm gonna try and avoid that at all costs. What I'm gonna try and do is work for a private practice and still be able to like choose my own clients and stuff like that. So that's the ultimate goal. So I can still feel some of that freedom as soon as I start out. But the point is I won't have a stable paycheck, and that's fine. Like, I'm trying to leave. I mean, not trying to leave. The stable paycheck isn't the reason that I'm leaving corporate, right? It's the environmental factors. So it's like, obviously, working for an agency or whatever, or the state isn't going to give those environmental factors like from the get-go. Why would I do it? Um, so I don't wanna do another 2 years of, like, burning out, you know? I'm already burning out in a different context. I don't wanna burn out while also making less money, like, that's kind of the antithesis of the point. So I'm sure I'll work for a private or group practice at first. Okay, so all of the rational, logical parts of my brain, which is kind of how I've been, forced to act from over the past decade, um, is telling me that's what you do. You stay a full extra 2 years at your job so that you can have this big cushion to which you don't have to sacrifice whatever aspects of your life when you are coming out of school and have your first job as a therapist. The other part of my brain, again, the reason that I am leaving in the first place, corporate and changing careers, is telling me take the risk because it's kind of the point. I'm gonna be taking the risk anyway by switching careers, right? So it's like I would just be doing that a little bit earlier. Um, but again, the logical part of my brain. So it's like it's saying it's kind of double the risk because it's not just like you're giving up the income. I'm also paying for my life. Like, I'm also drawing down my savings. So it is kind of like a double scenario in either way, right? Like, I either stay and have a stable paycheck and get to save for the future, or like pay for my needs and save for the future. Or I leave, I don't get an income, so I have to draw down for my immediate expenses. And then I also don't get to save for the future, right? So it's like it double hurts or double helps. And there's unfortunately not a scenario where I could quit my job and still save for the future, or quit my job and, whatever, like not have to draw down from my savings for my everyday expenses, right? It's both. I have to do that and I can't save at all. Um, right? So it's really like every month is kind of like 2 months that I stay. So because I get to pay for my immediate expenses and I get to save another $3,000 or whatever, which is going to cover another month's of expenses in the future. So it's hard. I'm also giving up if I were to do that, I'm also giving up my pension. And that feels especially irresponsible in today's climate because what fucking job that's not a government job even gives a pension anymore? This is probably one of the last like public organizations that has a pension. Well, public kind of means government. I guess I don't mean that. This is private, but it's like nonprofit. So it's like it's different. It's like kind of in between, I guess. But like what I don't think most nonprofits even give a pension. Like I I don't know. But again, the pension's not going to be great. It's not like thousands of dollars. I would be receiving $500 a month um as early as 65. And again, I'm turning 30 this year. 65 is more than double my lifespan. Like what I have lived so far to date, I'm going to have to live that over plus some, plus a half decade before I can even access $500 a month. And guess what? It's not inflation adjusted. It is $500. So like what is $500 a month going to mean in fucking 35 years? I've done the math. If just looking at 3% inflation, which by the way, we've had multiple years in the last decade where inflation has been well over 3%. Obviously, we had the COVID inflation of 8% in 2021. I believe it was 2021. That was just like terrible. Um, and this year, Trump's second term, asshole. He started a war for no reason, because he's a little baby and he's killing people for sport and for his own ego. And so, because of that, our spending, I believe, is over 4% now, which isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be honest. Not spending, well, inflation. Which has to do with spending, but um yeah, it's over the average as well and likely going to continue to go up, especially cuz now our oil is running out. And so I don't know, it's getting bad. All prices are increasing across the board because of transportation costs going up and because the fucking oil barons are doing everything they can to be in bed with Trump and make it so that we don't invest in renewables, and we're gonna have to eventually get shit from China to be able to get into renewables. And our country is okay. We're getting into the we're getting into the larger part that I can talk about soon. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So again, I don't know. I can finish school a little faster if I take 3 classes a semester, but then I'm like stressing myself out for more, like stressing myself out for less time, and I just don't know if it's worth it. And basically I've set a time on my calendar. So the earliest I think the right time to leave if I'm going to leave is next April. And I specifically put 420 as my day, and I actually have I hope this comes through on the video portion. It does not at all. Okay, it doesn't matter. I have a counter app on my phone, and so it's 309 days, 20 hours, 55 minutes, and 56 seconds until I can quit. Um and the reason I've chosen that date is because our bonuses hit in April, and we're already halfway through the year. So, I mean, I wasn't going to quit this year anyway, but if I am to stay until next April, I would get my full bonus for this year. And this is actually probably the last year that we're going to get a good bonus. Um, so essentially, I would have my savings from the latter half of this year plus the first 4 months of next year and probably an extra $6,000 net from my like $10,000 bonus, which is what I'm estimating I'm going to get for that, which is another 2 months worth of savings. So it'll be as if I've stayed half the year, like through June. Um, and so I would have it would last me, an extra 2 more months than I would have had otherwise, and it allows me to cash in on all the work that I've put into this company for this year. So that's why I think April is going to be the best time to quit. I would have one more year of school if I take those extra classes, and I would graduate in June or July. So I would really be like it would actually be in like an extra 2 months because I'd be graduating in the summer. But again, that bonus gives me an extra 2 months. So I have a year's worth of savings plus that. And I want to point out too, um, my financial plan for that does not or already accounts for an emergency fund. So I wouldn't be going into my emergency savings to fund this. Like, I would have a full sabbatical fund for that year and 2 months and not even have to touch my $15,000 emergency savings. Because while I'm unemployed, if I do quit next April, you know, I still need an emergency fund for something terrible happens, so that it doesn't throw me off uh, the trajectory. I'd be able to pay a medical bill or whatever. So, the reason I'm like stressed by that again is the two sides of my brain. One is telling me I've done all the work to save up for it. I know that the math would work out. That's not really a problem, and I have a lot of things I can also hinge on. I have a partner who makes an income. You know, he would probably be more than willing to like slash, to take on more of the mortgage like while I'm doing this, and I should probably just have that conversation with him. I I have a lot of pride. Honestly, that's something I may need to work on. But I don't want to stop contributing as much as I've been contributing to our mortgage, which is 50% during this time. But that's maybe something I could do, and so if he's open to that, that would probably save a couple more months. That would give me a couple more months too of runway. um, I could also, if I end up needing the cash, I could get a part-time job while I'm in school. Like, that is actually totally something that I could do, right? That's an option. The real part of this isn't actually about the runway for me. It's about the pension. Ugh, like, I again, $500 a month, it's gonna get me some groceries. Like, realistically, it's gonna get me groceries. But it's like, okay, free groceries for the rest of my life after 65, like, that's not nothing. That's not nothing. But I also am already going to be a multimillionaire. So I'm just like, will I even need that cash? But it's kind of an impossible thing to figure out because we have no idea what the state of the world is going to look like, especially right now in these times that are fucking psycho, right? Like, I'm kind of planning as if that's going to continue, but I guess this is the bridge now. We're getting into the bigger part. I'm officially deciding to make that switch now. Um, you know, to I was gonna say not to be bleak, but yeah, let's be fucking bleak. That's the reality that we're living in. If that's the case, and I have to plan for the trajectory, I'm not gonna be able to retire anyway. Like, I'm in the top 10% of earners of my age. It's slightly extending every year now that I'm gonna be in my 30s, like, getting worse. Like, it's gonna be like the 12%, 15%, whatever, just because as you age, you tend to make more. But I'm in the top 10% of earners, and I guess my point is, if someone in the top 10% of earners in the country, so young, and has done everything, I've done everything like quote unquote right for the system. I have reduced my expenses in the categories that make the most impact and change. I've always lived with people. 1 year of my life, I lived alone. Um, I have allowed for some lifestyle creep, but again, like a 10% increase in my fund budget versus like a 30% decrease in my rent. Like, come on, that impact's not the same. So, like, I have done the math correct, and I feel like I have correctly kind of like rode the line between like fun for now versus like future planning. I really do think I've done everything right when it comes to finances because that is what I have prioritized and put my time into. And I don't wanna say time because it's like I'm still just working, but it's like the planning time, I guess. But, I feel like I have really made all the right decisions, and if someone in the top 10% making all of the right decisions still won't be able to retire, then it's like, "Girl, like, we're all fucked. We're all fucked." Like, society will fucking collapse. Like, we're all gonna work until we die, like, and everything's gonna fall apart. Like, I do think that, like, if we don't figure out some alternative solution, then we're all gonna be holding the bag. Like, there's no like we can't live in a society like that. Like, I don't want to. You know what I mean? I'm like where only 1% of people can exist comfortably. Like, we might be in a 90-10 split right now, but like that's gonna turn into like it just shrinks every year and it grows. the cost to just be comfortable every single year just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows at the expense of almost all of us. And we as a country like really need to fight back. Like and I do think people are finally waking up. Um but you know what? You know what's funny? I've been watching some actually like great content recently from like Twitch streamers looking at like financial videos and just kind of like laughing at the fire movement. And I want to reiterate that this is like not a political, I mean, it is a political problem, but I was going to say it's not really a political like left or right stance. Like it really is again like don't look left or right, look up and down because there's only a few people up there. Most of everyone in the world is at your level or below you. Um and I mean in this country specifically too, right? So it's just like it is like the pull yourself up by your bootstraps argument just like really doesn't hold much weight anymore. Not today. Not today. And this creator that I was watching, it was one of those like millennial money kind of like ripoffs, but it was looking at this guy who was like a furry. Total aside, but he was in his mid 20s and he was talking about how he has like a $300,000 per year job at Meta or something as a developer, probably AI developer, like some shit like that. And he is eating ramen every single day. Like he is kind of like I wouldn't call him an incel, because he does seem to like pursue his hobbies. He does seem to have a community. Like it's more than a lot of people that are like not incels have, honestly. Like when it comes to socializing and potentially sex, I don't know. But to his credit, the commentator, the streamer was like, I don't hate this guy. Like this guy is in our society doing all of the right things. He's working for the tech oligarchs. He is taking the income. He's not ascribing by the tech oligarch lifestyle. He's just taking the money so that he can build his own life the way he sees fit within the system. And that's kind of the only option that's left anymore. Like for real, it's like getting these jobs where like the work is soulless but usually, not all consuming. It's kind of the best option you have is to work for one of these people that is ruining our planet, shortening our attention spans, sucking up all our water, like really having probably one of the worst impacts on humanity. These Silicon Valley freaks. And working for one of them just so you can have a somewhat balanced life and work towards eventually getting out of the system. And so yeah, it was this kid who is working towards fire and he was in his mid 20s and he's like, I hope to retire in my 30s. And this is kind of the best option. I'm just gonna like, live like this for a decade and then I'll be able to get out. And even then the numbers are kind of sketchy because again, investments take time. Even though he's making $300,000 a year and he was putting away like 200K, like yes, he'll have like over $1 million invested by the time he's in his 30s, but you can't retire on $1 million. I was doing that math in the beginning of this little potty. Like $1 million is not enough, and when you're in your 30s, like you can't really safely. Maybe you can safely deaccumulate like I don't know, like 10, 20 grand, but like you cannot be doing like $100,000 when you have $1 million. Like you can't be retreating that or taking that in your 30s. Like you're gonna run out of money. Your portfolio is gonna run out. So I guess it's just to show again, even those making $300,000, they're still workers. They're still workers. They're still trapped in the same system that we are. And again, I make like half of that. I don't make 300,000, but I make close to. Well, I don't even make half of that. I make close to $150,000, and I'm in the top 10%. So that guy's probably in the top like 5%. But still, it's like we're not like again the difference between the top 5% and the top 1% is fucking crazy. It's like millions and millions of dollars. And so someone making $300,000 a year is still, a normal ass worker. And even then, he still has to work an entire decade to live off a shrimp salary. Like again, if he is actually planning to retire with like I think he said maybe around 1.6 million will be like the top estimate. He'll have somewhere between $1 million and $1.6 million invested. He's not going to be able to take probably more than like 50K out a year, and that's still a lot. Like again, 1.2 million by the time you're 65, you can take out $40,000 a year. So to have that with triple the time span, like you'd have to limit that by a triple, right? So like, God, I don't know. Like, I feel like he could take out like 10 to 15 grand a year. You can't live off that. You cannot live off that. So it's just like, if that's his plan, you still have to work hard for a decade for these evil people to try and live off like 10, 15 grand a year. That's psycho. That is psychotic. And yes, with every decade, he's going to be able to take out a little bit more and like live maybe probably a more normal life by the time he's 40. Sure, sure, sure. But it's just like, God, like this is what life has come to. It's just sad, and so it's all sad. Like fire is sad. It is really like the ultimate form of capitalism. Like it, not ultimate form of capitalism, but it's like it's the only thing that's left of the illusion in my opinion, of the pick yourself up by your bootstraps like right rhetoric of finances and capitalism. Like I think it's really kind of the last leg of it. It's like there's still like you can still do it, and it's like sure, maybe again the top 10 shrinking every single fucking year, maybe the top 5% can still do it. And I realize I'm like shouting now, sorry. I hope this is listenable, because I think I will post this. But maybe the top 5% of us can do it. But is that the life we want to live? Is that like, do we want 95% of the population just hoping that maybe one day they can be that 5%? Because let me tell you, again, unless you get started early, your chances to become that 5% dwindle drastically, because the amount that you would need to make if you started this journey in your 40s instead of your 20s is astra-fucking-nomical. It's astronomical. So, is that the society we want to live in? No. You know what? You know what society we want to live in? One with social programs that are funded by the government. Like, it's not that hard. Every other developed country Every other developed country has this. Like, why does the US not have that? Well, we know, because greed. It's just it's barbaric. It's actually so crazy. And I feel like the argument is like, well, in other countries like in Europe that have universal health care, you can't make as much money. And it's like, true, but guess what? The inverse of that is like, it's because you don't need as much money to live a fulfilling life, girl. Like, when education and healthcare are mostly provided for by the federal government or the state, whatever the equivalent is, the province, wherever you are. When that is given to you, you have so much more mobility. You don't need to work for healthcare, so you don't need to um you can change jobs more frequently. The type of job you can be a freelancer and start your own business without as much worry, because if you get fucking sick, you're still gonna have healthcare without your business needing to be a success from day one. Um, if education was nearly free, and I'm not saying that any of this stuff should be free. I mean, it'd be great if it was, but if it was like, if a master's degree was like $5,000 instead of $40,000, everyone would be able to change jobs more frequently. And that's literally all I want. I want healthcare to be decoupled from employment, and I want, well, access to actually good healthcare without it killing you, without you having to pay $500 to $1,000 a month on your own. Like, that's ridiculous. That's another rent. I want healthcare to be affordable and uncoupled from employment, and I want education to be nearly free. Again, most other places in the world have this guaranteed. We are an outlier. We are an outlier. Um, if most of this was accounted for, you would be able to create value in the world in the way that you see fit, or at least just experiment, because that's another huge thing. The reason people are like one of the reasons we're so fucking miserable in this country is because we are tied to employment. Like we are forced to grow in careers that we decide to pursue when we're fucking 17, 18, when we haven't experienced the real world yet. Like we're making these decisions in our hometowns. Like once you decide like what to major in before you've experienced the world and developed, your sense of self more, we're making these decisions. And sure, you can change your major in college. Yes, but it's not that simple. You should be able to decide that something is not for you and at least explore other options without having to go bankrupt, without having to trade your healthcare, without having to trade years of your life. And I haven't even layered like caregiving into this. I like this is for single adults I'm talking about that have no dependencies. You're still risking years of social mobility. A pension, for example. And again, almost no one fucking has access to a pension anymore unless you work for the government. So I'm like, this is already like, I'm talking about the cream of the crop here is you're still making these horrible, horrible trade offs in our system. It is just completely unsustainable. And for the boomers that are like, no one wants to work anymore, no one wants to it's not that no one wants to work anymore, it's that no one wants to work for these horrible companies that give you no agency. People don't want to feel trapped. People don't want to feel trapped. People just want to provide value to the world in the way that they want to, and know that if they get sick or if they want to change their mind one day, they'll have a chance to do that and actually, get care without ruining their entire life. Like these are not like the fact that this is politicized, and granted, I want to say everything is politics because politics determine the lives we can live. It decides who we can marry. It decides, like, it's so funny when I guess like the right criticizes like identity politics, because I'm like, well, identity politics wouldn't be as much of a thing if like we all had like the same protections, but we don't, because we don't invest in, in social programs that protect everyone. It's like we wouldn't have to be talking about marginalization if it didn't exist. Like it's just, I don't know. It's just like it drives me fucking crazy. Um it drives me crazy. Like if everyone was protected and we all had options for mobility and providing value and not getting harassed, it would be the world would be a much different place, and we wouldn't need to talk about these things as much as we need to talk about them. That being said, I do think that because things are getting so bad, and especially because the Republican Party is so extreme right now, I do think and has control of everything. That's the part I want to talk about. There's no excuses, and I do think, especially with what's happening with data centers being built in rural Republican dominated districts and communities, I do think that the casual right in America that's just watching Fox News and being fed cancerous bullshit every single day, I do think that they are finally starting to wake up a little bit, because there's really no peep my deodorant in the background, lol. But yeah, I like there's no excuse anymore. They have control over literally everything right now. They have control over the Supreme Court. They have control, which, by the way, is probably going to be ultra conservative until I die, because Trump has been able to appoint three fucking like it's fucking crazy how much damage this man has done. I don't want to say this one man because it's his entire cabinet, obviously, but it's in the broad the far right, which is still kind of a handful of people, which is hyperventilating. It is it's fucking crazy how much lifelong damage they have done, and also to grow up like all of my 20s have been dominated by this man. Like we had 4 years of Biden, which he actually like his administration got like almost no credit for doing actually a lot of good work, like the CHIPS Act, which by the way, random tangent, but like the CHIPS Act is so funny to me that it was dismantled because like Trump is in bed with all of these like tech oligarchs, and like I know he had a tiff with Elon or whatever, but like they're still, for all intents and purposes, like the government contracts and all this stuff, like they're still in bed together. Um for it's so funny, like dismantling the CHIPS Act, which actually had the US, under Biden, a plan to actually, manufacture like these chips to stay competitive in like the tech and like AI race. It's so funny that that was dismantled because um like that's what Trump has been saying this whole time, right? Like is we need to manufacture in the US, and it's like get back to like being factory workers and like some shit. I'm like, one, no one's going to want to do that, and two, you can't just like do that. Like there needs to be demand for that. And we've built our whole economy around kind of being consumers of cheap labor in other places. So you don't just like build manufacturing plants and all of a sudden change the way things have been working for the past like 100 years. Um, but yeah, I already forgot. Far right, yeah, yeah. There's no excuses anymore because the far right is in control of all of our branches of government. They're in control of the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court and the executive branch, obviously. So, I do think that because Democrats have literally like next to no power at all, um, that you know everyday Republicans that just watch Fox News, well, I mean they're getting polarized because Fox News is polarizing, but and radicalized, but I do have faith now that they're starting to wake up, and I kind of have a feeling that Fire, to tie this all together, I do kind of feel like Fire is in a similar spot of like the people who can actually achieve this. It's a very small community. And I think it's kind of tied to this same phenomenon of people waking up to the fact that they're not going to be the top 1%. Like they're just not. And I think we're all and it keeps getting more extreme every single year. So the qualifier to be the top 1% is getting like harder and harder to well, actually, wait, no, it would be the opposite, right? No, 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 it wouldn't. I'm trying to think because uh sorry, I have two conflicting ideas in my head and I don't know how to express them. Um but yeah, yeah, no, I mean it would get harder to attain. So yeah, like I don't know. I think the ability to achieve Fire, especially with the fact that we're getting squeezed more and more each year, it's just going to get harder and harder to do under our system. And the most effective way for like honestly, the most effective way for all of us to move on is for the need to achieve Fire to be squashed by policy. If we had social programs, I would not feel like I have to stay this extra year, right? The logic part of my brain, it'd be like, well, you don't fucking need the pension. You're gonna have millions of dollars, and if Social Security's, if I could rely on Social Security existing, if I could rely on healthcare not being a bajillion dollars a year, I wouldn't feel the need to stay this extra year at all. I might even be able to quit now, for fuck's sake. Like, if I wasn't worried about health insurance, not needing health insurance for 2 years. So it's just like if we just had policies that protected common people and gave us more mobility to move around each year, we wouldn't need to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. That's it. Like that's the answer. That is the answer. And so it's just like whoo, I'm just frustrated because I have built a decade pursuing this path, and I'm giving myself grace because really I need to feel like I have agency, and everyone craves that. Um And I have had agency, but it's just like I guess I'm just realizing that having being one of the few that gets to actually build a nest egg that probably will still support me in retirement if things don't get worse than they are right now, which honestly they probably will before the revolution happens. um and I don't mean necessarily total political revolution, but I think there will. I think a I think a liberal movement is. And I really hope you don't find liberal as a slur, because I mean, if so, you've dropped and not been listening to this point. But I do think like a liberal movement is coming after this because the pendulum swings in the other direction always. So especially in a especially in a two-party system. Or everything collapses, like or everything collapses. So one of those two things is coming, and if everything collapses, all the work I've done up to this point is kind of like, it's like, did it even like maybe it gave me at least a sense of agency through all the chaos, but yeah, I don't know. I hope we have a liberal movement where, my assets are still going to help, but also I will feel free to change my career every 10 years because I know that our government is working to protect us. So, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it because we're almost at an hour. Um, I had another point about podcasts in general and about like I'll just make this real quick. I think it's interesting that podcasts get so much momentum nowadays. And I was kind of reflecting as to why, like the quality of the content is lower. Like there's no doubt about that. In my mind, like the quality of the content is almost always lower because it's more unscripted. But then I was just thinking about how much of a reflection of society and what like our collective conscience is like kind of subconscious, I guess, is craving right now. And I think it's really about authenticity. I think people really crave getting information from like content creators and like people they just like and trust more because it's like we're I think we know we're being constantly propagandized with ads and even just like major news outlets. Like I think we just know and can't trust a lot of what's being fed to us. So it's I think we seek out people where we can see them in a more natural environment because um it feels more trustworthy than something that is rehearsed and being platformed. So I really think the rise of independent media and content creation is still going to keep going. I just think that we're going to need to start um also looking at third party platforms to access this third party content as well. Because I've been a YouTube kid my whole life, but they've been a monopoly for a long time. They continue to be, and I think to like truly, you know, decouple the content from the shittiness of capitalism and yeah, monopoly is it's going to be hosting this content on other platforms. So I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I do believe, especially with the vibe coding, vibe coding, and AI, which is terrible. I do think it does offer some opportunity for us for like average lay people to develop their own systems, and I guess also we're kind of like talking Substack and that stuff too. But like the rise of that, I think is a net good probably as a result from all of this. So that's at least something. Um, and maybe a direction I'll go moving forward. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this again. I do this kind of for therapy, and I do love all the comments and the community because I don't get much, but the people that do interact, and it really makes me feel like I'm heard and that we get to actually talk to real people, and it feels like it's just a really nice point of like unexpected connection. So I'll leave that there. Feel free to connect. It sounded like LinkedIn. Feel free to leave a comment. I would love to read it. And until next rant, I'll see you later. Bye.